Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Like quite literally, welcome back. It has been a while, close to a year and a half I think, from the last time that I posted a tutorial on here. If you've been wondering what's happened to me and why I've dropped off in posting, I'm still very active on my Instagram. The last year I focused on making mini tutorials, I've started doing Reels and TikTok recently. My Instagram is something I'm really proud of. If you want to go check out what's been going on here, so many exciting and fun new things has been happening and I've just really missed filming YouTube. So I've sat down today because I really wanted to make a tutorial. I've seen a lot of inspiration photos online of what people expect Carnage to look like because currently the trailer was only released a couple weeks ago and we're not quite sure what he's going to look like or what the storyline's going to be. All we know is that Woody Harrelson's going to be in it, so I'm really excited, hoping that it's going to be even better than the first one because I really enjoyed the first film. The Venom tutorial that I did a couple years ago was something I'm very proud of and I wanted to see if I could do better. I want this to be very big, very exaggerated. I want to do the majority of my arm and my body. So in this video today, I'm going to teach you how to create a Carnage makeup look. I seen another artist do a Venom type look where the mouth was opening up and there was a tongue, and I thought that was brilliant. It's so different to the original Venom look that I did. So I'll leave her links and all of her socials here, and she does have some videos and tutorials as well, which I will leave down below if you want to go check them out. So here's the prosthetic here. I'm going to give you a little bit of a run through on how I made it. I'm going to put on a little bit of a base. I'm going to do this eye off camera and then just jump straight into it. To begin the prosthetic makeup today, I'm first going to create the teeth, and I'm going to be using a product called Polymorph Plastic. This is a meltable plastic pellet, so if you pop it in boiling water, it will go clear and malleable, and then you can start to sculpt it into any shape that you want. Because Carnage is a villain, we really want him to look a little bit rough around the edges, so I'm going to create lots of different sized and shaped teeth. My first Venom look was quite consistent and perfect, which we definitely don't want to do today. Once you've sculpted a bunch of teeth, you can then move on to the eye. I'm just going to press some more of that plastic down into a flat little pancake, roughly in the shape that I'm going to need, and then sculpt it up against a bowl. That's going to give it a really nice curve so it'll fit comfortably against your face later on. Now it's time to start making the actual prosthetic itself. I'm going to be using liquid latex paste. So the easiest way to make this is by pouring latex into a bowl, and then you want to thicken it with either plain flour or baby powder. Start to spoon that in and mix it up as you go to get the right consistency and thickness that you're after. I like mine to be quite thick, almost if you hold it upside down on a spoon, it's not going to go anywhere. Now that we have a batch of latex paste, we can start to sculpt the prosthetic. I'm going to be using a face cast of myself today, and if you want to make one of these, I have an in-depth tutorial on my channel on how to do so. Otherwise, you can just use a foam head or a mannequin head. I'm going to start applying the latex paste over the eye socket to fill that area in. By now, the eye that we sculpted on the bowl earlier should have cooled down and returned back to a hard plastic. This is what it looks like here, and it definitely has a slight little curve to it. So as I said, it's going to comfortably fit over your eye area. I'm just going to press that down from the nose to the forehead, and then using that latex paste, we're going to start to sculpt the actual shape of the eye. It's always best to use a reference photo of the character that you're trying to recreate. Some of this footage I have pinched from my Venom tutorial, but they're both symbiotes, so Carnage and Venom actually have the same facial features anyway. The only difference was that I changed up the teeth. While you're building your prosthetic, you can apply more regular latex over the top and smooth it in with your hands. That's just going to settle the paste down and make it look a little bit more consistent and not so bumpy. After I've got all of the eye sculpted, I then went in and applied the teeth. I just gently popped them in there and let them set overnight. If you need more stability, you can use a cotton wool ball and pop that underneath the teeth, kind of hide it up in there and seal that with latex as well. Once I've let that dry overnight, it is going to look something like this, which is very cool and scary. Now to remove it, I'm going to take some baby powder and just gently peel it away at the edges. Then using a fluffy brush, I'm just going to start to apply that under the back and work my way to the center of the face. It's a good thing to keep in mind that it may not be completely set, so just be cautious that the underside of the prosthetic could still have some wet liquid latex in there. After everything is dry, give it a really good powder, and then with this prosthetic in particular, I highly recommend painting behind the teeth. It's going to save you a lot of time getting up in those hard to reach places, so just pick a color that you think you're going to use for the mouth. I used Mehron for my Venom look, but black for my Carnage look, and as you can see, there is so many teeth, it would be way too tedious to go ahead and do that once you've got one of your eyes already covered. So I'm going to quickly talk about the tongue, and then we're going to move on to applying this prosthetic. For the tongue, I simply sculpted it out of foil, and then I covered it in a liquid latex paste. Once I have it all covered, I then use a hot glue gun to just dab on some little taste buds. I also applied a red paint onto the tongue just to give it a base coat, because I will be applying highlight and shadows to it later on to match it to the final end result of the makeup look. Now that we have both our prosthetics made, we can move on to the application, which is always the best part. So I'm going to be laying down some non-toxic glue over my eyebrow just to protect the hairs. So apply 3 to 4 coats. Once that's fully dry, you just want to press it down to make sure that all of the hairs are secure, and then I'm going to just powder that down to give it more of a mattified effect. So I'm just using a baby powder and pressing that into the skin, and then removing any excess so we can start to apply our adhesives. Makeup looks like these are great because you're going to hide all of your mistakes. So we can use a really cheap bold cap and then cut that in half. We're just going to use some hair clips and bobby pins to secure that down. And if you are planning on wearing this look out, you may need to get someone to help you with the back of your head. I'm not going anywhere. This is just for a tutorial. So I'm just going to swoop the rest of my hair to the side and move on with the front of the face. So I like to use Spirit Gum as an adhesive, but you can go in with liquid latex or whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm going to apply the Spirit Gum around the border of my face, tap on it to make sure it's nice and tacky, and then really stretch that bold cap over and press it down firmly to get a nice flat edge. Also apply that around the back of your neck and your ear to make sure everything is set in place, and then do a little bit of a check just to see that everything is lining up the way it should. It was in this moment that I realized I had misjudged my bold cap, so I needed to add a little bit more. I went ahead and used some skin tape to blend down the areas of the bold cap that were already applied. So this is just a low tack medical adhesive tape that you can get from the chemist or the drugstore. It only costs a couple dollars, and it is designed for your skin, so it is so easy and comfortable. Instead of applying a thick layer of liquid latex around the edges of my bold cap and my prosthetic, this has been my new go-to. I kind of accidentally stumbled across it, and it has been my new favorite thing. So I'm taking another chunk of the bold cap that I've just cut out, and that is the area that I need to cover the rest of my hair, and then I'm just going to adhere that down with some pieces of that tape and move on to applying the prosthetic. I'm also going to be using Spirit Gum today to apply the prosthetic onto my skin, and I recommend this because it specifically holds heavier prosthetics, and I wouldn't recommend just going in with liquid latex. If you guys can get your hands on some, this stuff works way better. So I'm going to apply that on my face in all of the anchor points that I really need it to stick to, specifically my chin, my nose, and my brow bone, and we're going to exclude any areas like the eye socket that are unsafe. I'm then going to line it up and press it down firmly to make sure that that is all stuck. I popped the tongue in as well once I felt like it was all nice and secure and I could start moving my face around. Now that it is set, we can go ahead and start painting. So I'm taking a white eyeliner pen and just mapping out the areas of the skin that I want to be peeking through. This is something I didn't do in my Venom tutorial that I really regret because it looks freaking awesome. So I've gone ahead and just mapped it out, and because I have tattoos, I will need to quickly cover them up. I didn't do the best job with this, but the desired effect was there. I just used a high coverage foundation and a powder foundation and just set that all in place. I'm now going to start blending out the prosthetic into the skin. So we're going in with liquid latex and a little bit of flour. We're creating a latex paste and dipping our cotton wool balls in. Make sure you unravel them so you get much more out of it and they're not as clumpy. You can then dip that into the paste and then start to build up any areas along the jaw and the ear that are missing. What we're looking for here is a base shape, so you want to keep it as compact as possible. Just keep pressing down that cotton wool ball to keep it really flat to the skin, but we don't need it to be smooth because we are applying a gelatin mixture over the entire prosthetic later on. We're just looking for a shape here to fill out any areas that we're missing and not necessarily like a nice smooth texture. Once you've got that all sculpted, take some regular liquid latex and apply one last layer to seal it all in place. I like to speed up the drying time a little bit with a hairdryer just so the latex is touch dry and we can start painting over the top of it nice and quickly. So I'm going to take a black body paint and start to apply some shading around the edges of the eye. This is going to be helpful so that when we start applying the red, there is already black under there to give some depth. This is one of my favorite steps because you can finally see Carnage come to life. So I'm taking a water activated red body paint and I'm going to start filling in all of the prosthetic and bringing that down my neck and arm as well. I will leave all of the products in the description box below in case you're wondering exactly what I used, but you could also use a cream paint or even a grease paint for this, would blend really nicely over that latex. I'm going in and starting to blend that into the jawline as well, and as you can see, having that black paint all up in the gums and the eye just already gives it a little bit more shading, so we're kind of ahead for our next couple of steps. Now this is one of the parts where you can get really creative and you can turn it into your own. I really want the symbiote to be taking over my body, so I'm leaving out little patches of skin, and I'm so glad I covered my tattoos because obviously it just doesn't make it as messy in my opinion. Now I'm going in and really making it stretch across the center of my body, and I'm also going to fill in the whole underneath of my arm, but my forearm and my shoulder is going to be left open. This is one of the coolest parts. I just love watching it come together. Definitely the most eye-catching piece of the entire tutorial in my opinion, just seeing the skin peeking through, and I think if you were doing a full-blown costume you could do your legs and your other limbs as well, and that would just look awesome. So now I'm going in and just making the teeth a little bit more grimy and gross. I'm taking a pale yellow color and starting to just lightly buff that over some of the teeth. I will go in with a makeup wipe and dull it down a bit later on as well, but I just wanted him to not look as perfect. I then applied that color evenly over the eye, and then with a black body paint just carefully outlined the shape. I did look at a reference photo here just to get it a little bit more evil and precise, and then I'm just going to darken up the gums as well. As you can see, it's really starting to come together. I'm now going to paint the tongue because the majority of the face is done, so I'm just taking some cream paints and applying some highlight down the center of the tongue, and then I'm taking some black and applying that around the base of the tongue and the little curve at the bottom there, so it kind of looks like natural highlights and shading. After the tongue was all finished, I went in with a white body paint and lightly applied some highlights on the rounded edges of the teeth just to give them a little bit more of a glossy look. I popped the tongue in just to check that it was all good, and now we can go on to making our gelatin. Sfx Gelatine is really going to bring this to life and make it super glossy and creepy, so I'm going to show you how to quickly create that. I'm taking a microwavable cup, and then we need equal parts of gelatin powder and water. So I'm going in with 3 tablespoons of each, and then you need to apply half the amount of glycerine. So glycerine can be found in the cake section at the grocery store, or you can use Glycerol, which you can get from the drugstore. So it is equal parts of both water and gelatin, and then half the amount of Glycerol. Give it a really good mix until it's kind of lump free. If you keep mixing it, it should eventually turn into like a light fluffy material which almost looks like a puree. Then you need to microwave that for about 10 seconds at a time. Keep mixing it until there is absolutely no lumps, and there it is, a perfect gelatin mix. I also recommend that at this point you could go ahead and pre-color your gelatin mix, so that way you use less product later on. You can either use a food coloring or even a cream makeup and just mix that through while the liquid is still quite warm out of the microwave. Once it's starting to cool down, you can then apply it to your body, but please be careful not to burn yourself. For my Carnage gelatin mixture, I applied 3 drops of red food colouring, 1 tiny drop of black, and a little bit of red body paint as well. I mixed all of that up and it gave me this perfect, deep, glossy red. It was almost the colour of blood, and I honestly loved it so much. I gave that a really good mix, and then once it started to cool down, I then carefully, very carefully started to apply it onto the prosthetic and my skin. Throughout the application, you may need to re-microwave your gelatin mix if it starts to get dry on you, but you can pretty much go in and use the back of a spoon, a paintbrush, whatever you like to start applying that gelatin. I recommend that you don't apply it too thick and make sure that the layers dry in between, but you can really just have fun with this step and go nuts. I applied it all down the side of my body and my arm. It is quite an uncomfortable product. It can be quite cold and it feels like jelly, but it looks that damn cool that I don't care how uncomfortable I have to be, okay? None of this is gonna feel great, but it looks epic. So I'm gonna let that dry down for a couple minutes, and you will feel that it's not as sticky, and then you can start to apply products over the top. I'm simply going in with some black eyeshadow here and starting to detail up parts of the eye and down the center of the face. As we get closer to the end of this tutorial, I'm referring back to my reference images, and one thing that Carnage has that is very distinctive are black veins. So he has this bright red skin, and I'm going to be using a black body paint and a fine detailing brush to just go in and start to apply these black veins that start in little sections and kind of disperse. I did go in with a makeup wipe and remove some areas of the gelatin. Because gelatin is so messy, don't feel shy to take some of it away because it will really open up the character and just give more of a human effect to it. So I went ahead and outlined some of those skin areas with some more of that black paint and then started to apply that across my chest and underneath the jaw as well. That really brought it to life, and I'm just getting less human as this video goes on, which we absolutely love. So once I've got all of the veins down, I'm then taking a white body paint and just applying that on some of them. I wanted to leave this quite dark and grungy for the most part, but there are a couple areas that I wanted to apply some highlights on, and if you need to blend it out, just use your finger to gently tap over the top. But I wanted these to be very stark and give it a really 3D glossy look. To finish this look today, I went back in with some more black eyeshadow and just started to deepen up any areas that I wanted to add more shadow and dimension to. And then after that, you could leave it here, definitely. It is an amazing look. I like to take it one step further, and I'm using lip gloss to add some slime and drool to the teeth. So I'm going in with lip gloss and a large brush and just gently applying that over some of the teeth to give it a really drooling monster effect. And I think this is the perfect final touch in my opinion. I thank you guys so much for watching and for always supporting me in all of my tutorials, my breaks that I have, and now that I'm back and creating, please comment below what you want to see me make next. If you recreate any of my work, please tag me. I really appreciate the credit and I love seeing you guys learn from me, but it is important as an artist, because I'm constantly growing and teaching myself new things, that you give credit where credit is due. I have had an issue with that recently, but I just want to say that with a lot of practice and hard work you can achieve anything, and I thank you guys for always supporting me. I hope you take care, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.